Hello everyone, this is Tricia from Planet Ninkol. I'm here today to do a weekly reflection. So this is my second weekly reflection, and this week I thought I would talk about the Sword 8, or the Eight of Swords. This card is from the Arthurian Tarot, which I definitely have to do a review on because I love it so much. So this card came up for me a couple times this past week, and let's see, I wrote a poem. Maybe I'll share that first. I was going to do it last, but I'll share it first, and then I'm going to talk about some other things that came up for me in regards to this card. Okay, so this is my poem. In stagnant waters I now stand. The horizon shows me greener land. I wait and muse and stand and stew, while over there it's green and blue. Tall and stubborn, claiming space, still longing for that other place. So that was my poem. It's inspiring me to write poetry, the Arthurian Tarot. Ha ha! Okay, so what I was thinking about with this card, I mean, it's a card about limited belief systems and, challenging the perceptions that you have and your beliefs about different things. So what's been coming up for me a lot lately in terms of this type of energy is I went through a long period where I've been very hermit-like and spending a lot of time in solitude and by myself. And, recently I've been becoming more social. I've started taking improv classes, and I started doing this YouTube stuff, and just getting out in the world more, and delving into my creative side again, and just really becoming alive in that way. And it is wonderful, first of all. And then it's also just bringing up a lot of stuff that needs to be cleared. I'm not going to hold that up the whole time. So I used to act. I was an actress for many years, and in my 20s, and it was very challenging for me because I was so fraught with insecurity and just jealousy and competition, and the most negative aspects of that. Competition can be healthy and good and can be motivating, but this wasn't that. It was definitely something else, and it was all coming from my own lack of self-love and insecurities and fears. So this stuff is starting to kind of like surface up again for me, and I have a lot of stories about being an outcast, being an outsider, not being popular, never being able to like penetrate into the inner circle, and a lot of those types of things. And so I pulled this card again, and I did a lot of journaling, and it was funny that this card was the one I pulled because I was just thinking about that stuff, and I pulled this card, and I was like, it's time for you to like purge some of this stuff on paper. For some reason, getting stuff on paper these days for me is essential, and it just feels super important. So I wrote like 3 pages nonstop of kind of where I feel like it began, and I kind of went through a bunch of different scenarios that have sort of played out in my life to kind of support this belief that I'm always on the outside and I can never, be popular or be in or whatever. And all these other memories started coming back of the exact opposite happening at the same time. But these weren't the things that I focused on or that I gave any power to. I focused on the things that supported what I already believed. I grew up with 2 older brothers. They were 2 years older and 4 years older than me. And So probably my first experience of that was, or one of the first experiences was just like having two older brothers who were becoming teenagers who didn't want to be hanging out with their little sister. And, you know, their friends would come over to the house, and, you know, some of them were very cute, and I wanted to be around, and I was like, oh, and, and, you know, I remember being kind of like embarrassed. They would make fun of me, or just, you know, it was obvious they didn't want me around. And that, you know, that was one experience that I had as a child. And then, you know, it sort of seemed to like, there were lots of other things that seemed to happen that were similar to that. And, you know, looking back now as an adult, I can see like, well, my brothers were becoming teenagers. Of course, they didn't want to have their younger sister around who they were going to have to like monitor all their actions and words, and also kind of have to babysit me. Like, what a drag for a teenage boy. So completely understandable. But the way that I took that in back then, you know, it was very, it was just so hurtful, and but that was the way that I perceived it. And then I've continued to perceive other events in my life in that same way. So anyway, I've just been thinking about this and thinking about how important it is to also look back at those things that were happening in my life that give me an exact opposite view, that really challenged that belief system. And so I started to make a list of all those things that really challenged that belief that I don't fit in, that I didn't have friends, that I wasn't popular. And I began to see lots and lots of evidence to the contrary. So I want to put that out there as maybe a fun thing to do if you have some sort of belief that you're struggling with, to maybe make a list of evidence to the contrary. So yeah, I'm really looking for evidence to the contrary. And also, while looking for evidence to the contrary, also just remembering that anything that I say can be just story. Like, what is really true? Because if I create stories about what other people are thinking, or what other people are perceiving, or what other people did because they wanted to do that, or they wanted to do this to me or to them, or that, like, it's all story. So I have to be really cautious about just creating another story that could be just as disempowering. So anyway, I'm throwing that out there, just reflecting on the Eight of Swords, what it means, ways to challenge myself and get through some of these disempowering beliefs that I have about who I am. And also thinking about projections and transference, which I pulled an amazing card from this Way of the Horse Oracle. I'm not going to talk about it now because I'm going to talk about it in a review, or at least a flip through. I just got it. It's amazing. So yeah, so this also gave me some additional insight into this topic, but I'm not going to talk about that here. The other thing that I do want to mention is that I've been taking this flower essence called All Ego Contracts Null and Void by Green Hope Farm. I love Green Hope Farm's flower essences. They're alcohol free, which may or may not be important to you. I take flower essences with alcohol, but if I can get it without, I kind of prefer that. So they have wonderful, wonderful essences if you want to look them up. I believe they're in Vermont. So anyway, I feel like that flower essence has also been sort of bringing up some of this stuff. That's kind of like the flavor of this essence, is to bring up those kind of beliefs and things that are part of your ego that you hold on to, that need to be released. So yeah, I really feel like I'm ready to release some of these things that I've held as true, and I don't want them anymore. I don't want them. They can be part of who I used to be and not part of who I am now. So that's it. That's my reflection. And yes to Sword 8. It's a beautiful card with lots to think about and share with us. Okay, bye. Have a wonderful week.